Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to Supreme Ruler of the Great War, kind of. The background footage is me playing as Iran. On the 1917 mode. So, doesn't go too badly, actually. It's the first time I played as Iran, so I didn't know what to expect. But they have no tech, but they're not terrible to play as in the 1917 mode. You've got Britain backing you up there against the Ottomans, so it's not too bad. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about today, and that is, as the title suggests, the DLC debate. I don't want to dive really deep into this. I just want to give a brief overview of both sides and what I think personally, and then you guys can really, discuss it in the comments if you want. I want to know what you think and your arguments for why you're pro or anti DLC. And what I'm talking about really is, should Supreme Ruler of the Great War have been DLC for Supreme Ruler Ultimate? That's the main debate, and I see that everywhere. I see that in YouTube comments, not only on my channel, but many other channels. I see reviews and stuff like that on Steam, negative and positive, saying that it either should or shouldn't have been, or why. Multiple other areas and stuff like that, where I see people, discussing this or arguing about this, or just plain being dicks about it. It's one of those things that I just see popping up quite a lot, so I just wanted to briefly talk about it. And I'm going to go over why the pro DLCs, for the most part of the arguments I see, think that it should have been DLC, and why people that say it shouldn't have been don't think it should have been, and then my own personal opinion on the matter. So the first we'll go over is the pro DLC. So people that want it to have been DLC and think it should have been DLC in the first place. So their main arguments, they really have two. Some of the anti-DLCs, both have two main arguments. The first argument for the pro DLCs is it is the same engine and graphics, so it would have been easy to just attach it to Supreme Ruler Ultimate, an already existing title. So yes, the graphics and engine and everything like that are identical to Supreme Ruler Ultimate. They are exactly the same. It's really what's inside that makes it different. So that argument I can kind of understand, but I don't think it's a very strong one, realistically, to argue the fact that it should be DLC. Yeah, it's the same engine and stuff like that, but plenty of sequels or even spin-off, non-DLC spin-off stuff used the same engine. Far Cry used the same engine, I believe, in Far Cry 1 and 2. And I believe they used the same engine for 4. Actually, they did for 4 and Primal. It was the same engine. In fact, in Primal, it was the same map, which did get some actual traction, but the engine usage was the same. And I believe a couple of the battlefields also used the same engine. There are multiple cases, both in the indie world and the AAA worlds, where the same engines are used for a game or two or more. There's spin-off stuff like Blood Dragon, Far Cry Blood Dragon. There's multiple spin-offs and stuff like that, with stuff like Get Out of Hell, the Saints Row series. There's all kinds of different iterations of using the same engine, so it's kind of a weak argument. Their second argument is really what they seem to attach onto, and that is the content of Supreme Ruler Great War. Now, Supreme Ruler Great War has, at the current time, a very actually well-working multiplayer system. So if you have friends that have the game and stuff like that, it does work very well in multiplayer. I've tested it out with up to 5 people, and it still runs very, very smoothly. The other content is the 2 sandbox modes, so 1914 and what you're seeing currently on the screen, which is the 1917 sandbox, and the campaigns. So the campaigns for all the major powers. So you've got the campaigns for Britain, you've got the campaigns for America, the Russians, Germans, Austro-Hungarians, I believe the Italians, and somebody else. But anyway, you have like 6 campaigns to go through that are all fully fleshed out. There's some glitches, I think, with 1 or 2 of them still, but for the most part, they are fully realized and fully there. So you have that much content. Now, that has given me so far, even if we count series out, at least 20 hours of content. So if I'm not even counting series that I record and stuff like that, then there's about 20 hours play out of the 25 or 26 hours I have in it currently that are me just playing the game. A lot of that was in the press week, but I still do play it on and off even when I'm not recording video. Though my favorite one to play strategy-wise and stuff while I'm not recording is probably like Age of Empires is my go-to if I don't want to record, but I want to play something kind of strategic, and I just don't want to necessarily get involved in anything huge at the current time. Then that's probably what I'm going to anyway. But content-wise, 20 hours is quite a long time. Yes, the price is, in Canadian dollars, $21.99. So, in American, I think it's $19.99 or $18.99. So, to be totally fair, for 20 hours of content, and that's just so far, I see an easy 100 hours out of it. No problem at all. That's not that bad, so I'm not complaining too much there. Now, the anti-DLC has two. Their argument is there is enough content, and to that I actually say maybe. The big argument I have for the content thing is there is a lot of content, yes, but there isn't as much content as before. And what I mean by that is that if you look at all the other Supreme Ruler games, Ultimate, 2020, Cold War, 1936, they had stuff like scenarios. This game is missing scenarios, which is a huge content draw for me, and just in general. There's like 20, 30 scenarios. You can go through and play them. They're great for they're great for videos, because, they last anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour or more. So they're great for videos because it's exciting, it's engaging, there's something going on, there's a goal in mind besides just war everybody around you and hope you win. It's, goal-oriented, which makes it interesting for series and makes it actually kind of intense, because some of those scenarios are really fucking difficult. If you go back in my scenario series for 2020 or Ultimate that I did, there are some scenarios that I either came close to losing, and I think actually a few of them I did just straight up lose, because they're difficult. Ultimate is a good example of the difficulty. I believe I failed 2 or 3 of them. 2020 is a little bit more easier for me. 2020 I'm pretty damn good at, but Ultimate I still have some troubles here and there, so it's one of those things that it's content that's technically missing from the series, from this game. Is there enough content to justify the price tag? I guess so, but is there for the crowd that's been around, all the Supreme Ruler guys that have been around since 2020, or even into Ultimate in 1936? I can understand the missing content debate, and that the anti-DLC think it should be standalone. I kind of question that argument a little bit on them. The biggest thing that the should have been a standalone game guys, anti-DLC people, have is the improved AI. Now, there's a video I'm going to link in the description by a guy named Average Gamer. I think his name's Rick. He's a Canadian too, which is interesting. So if you haven't ever heard of him and you like Supreme Ruler content, or if you're a mech guy, I think he plays a lot of those mech-escape games and stuff, then he's definitely your guy. Sweet dude. He streams a lot too, so if you're a streaming kind of person, you like those, he does a lot of that. So definitely go check him out. But anyway, I'm going to link a video in the description from him where he talks about the AI of Supreme Ruler Great War and how it's entirely different from any other Supreme Ruler game before. And his main thing, just to summarize it, is the fact that the AI is smart enough to build. So the AI in this game is actually semi-intelligent and will react to what is happening to its country at the current time. So he uses the example of, I believe it was Germany, how the Germans, they were losing the war with him. He was the Russians, I believe. They weren't doing the greatest, and they needed to buff up industry. So they did. They started building land production facilities. They started building multiple production facilities to accommodate that kind of stuff, industrial goods, oil, all kinds of other stuff to boost its economy and boost its production to be able to match what Russia was dishing out at them. And part of the reason I lost in the Russia series, though I know my general tactic of group and go is also to blame, was the fact that Germany actually built stuff. Because I went back into that save, because I hadn't lost, and looked at Germany beforehand, took out all the stuff that they took from me, and they had built land production facilities. They had built about 10 of them. Like, I know they captured a lot from me, and like I said, I took those out of the equation because I just went back to where my original borders were and took a look, and they had built 10 land production facilities because they were losing a war and they needed to win it, and they did. When I went haywire and started to attack them on a broader front, they took that as a opportunity to overwhelm me with numbers, and they did. They overwhelmed my more thinned out troops. They couldn't attack me when I was bunched up, and they didn't. They were smart enough to leave me alone and let me just throw myself around, and as soon as they saw an opportunity to take out my units individually, because they could, because they had the numbers there, they did. So the AI actually reacts intelligently, which is very interesting and has not been seen before. And the big issue with that too, for saying that this game should be DLC, is the fact that they would have to implement that throughout all of Supreme Ruler Ultimate, and that just might not be viable. It just might not be something they can do or could afford to do as a small indie studio. Because you have to remember, BattleGoat is not somebody big like Paradox. So they're not this huge corporation with tons of money thrown around from fucking years of Hoi 4 and EU4 DLC and all that kind of crap to be able to throw into their games. And Supreme Ruler Ultimate, if it's not making the money, they're going to have to move on to something else. And the AI may have not been compatible if they wanted to make this intelligent AI in Supreme Ruler Ultimate without doing a huge overhaul to Ultimate, which could have taken just too much time and money for them to actually do. So I think that's the strongest debate for why Great War should be standalone, honestly. So what do I think? Well, I mean, my bias sprinkles throughout discussing all of that. Obviously, the anti-DLCs I disagree with. There's enough content. The pro-DLCs I disagree with their same engine and graphics argument. Personally, I think that Supreme Ruler Great War is fine as a standalone title, and the reason why is price. A lot of people are like, oh, well, if it was DLC, it might be cheaper. How do you know? That's what I want to know. How do you know that it would actually be cheaper, and how much cheaper would it be? Is it viable enough that it even matters? Is it $10 cheaper that it could have been, or would it have been in the same price? Probably would have been about the same price for the content that's offered. I mean, this is an update DLC that would have, kicked up Supreme Ruler Ultimate and another 100 hours of content at least. Possibly more. And if scenarios come out in the future, well, that's even more content on the table, which I'm assuming it is just due to the big empty space on the main menu where scenarios should be. I have a feeling that they're working on it. They just didn't have it out for launch because it was kind of a rushed release, and that's something that they're currently working on. So that's even more content. That's another 10 hours at least of content there, probably more depending on what's offered. Because you can play those scenarios in 10 different ways, honestly. Like, there's a ton of ways you can actually play scenarios around. So usually I play 3 or 4 times and just see what I could have done. Plus, you can usually play both sides. There's more content offered there, and once that gets released, it's even more. So, should it have been DLC? I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is the fact that the price probably would have been the same. It really doesn't matter outside of that. If the price would have been different, then probably it could be DLC. If it was going to be considerably cheaper, like, say, instead of $21.99, it was going to be like $13.99 if it was DLC, and the AI hadn't been really improved as it had been, then I would probably be in the pro DLC crowd. However, the AI improvements and the price is just what it probably would have been anyway, so I just don't really see a point to making it DLC. Honestly, there's really no point really at all. It just makes no sense. So that's my personal stance. But I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think? Should Supreme Ruler the Great War have been DLC for Supreme Ruler Ultimate? And I want to just kind of curious on your arguments, why or why not. And just to maybe broaden my perspective. Maybe you can flip-flop me into the pro DLC category if you're very much so on that side, or maybe you can just strengthen my stance as it should have been a standalone game. So just let me know what you think from either what you've seen, or if you have Supreme Ruler Great War, what you've played. And other than that, though, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace.